G'day folks, today's philosophy is brought to you by a Dutchman, Baruch de Spinoza. He unfortunately passed away rather early in life due to powdered glass entering his lungs. But he said, I've made ceaseless efforts not to ridicule, not to bewail, not to scorn other human actions, but to understand them.
I'm sure that we've all watched Braveheart and we're aware of the William Wallace story, and the first battle of the Scottish Wars of Independence took place at, well, here, Stirling Bridge. And it was when King Edward I, Longshanks, had sent forces up and they engaged with William Wallace and his motley crew. And what Wallace had ordered his men to do was to wait until most of the English had crossed the bridge in order to give him that advantage, and then they attacked, which is interesting warfare because it was considered unfair. There were rules within warfare, and William Wallace was considered to have broken those, because ordinarily you would let forces cross a bridge, set themselves up, prepare themselves in the alignment that they desired, and then engage. But I mean, what are the rules in warfare? It reminds me of the old story about when Achilles killed Hector in the Battle of Troy, and then he dragged Hector's body through the dirt, and everyone went, oh, you don't do that. You kill a man, sure, but you don't drag his body through the dirt. Anyway, there's the Stirling Bridge. Railway bridge off in the distance, but the one that we're standing on is an even older bridge. But don't be disillusioned. Don't look at this and think this is the bridge that they actually rode across, because it isn't. It's a magnificent old bridge, but I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you. The battle took place about 180 yards upstream from here. They've done geophys, they've been underground, they found the old pillars. There were 8 pillars on the bridge crossing the river, and that's because the bridge crossed on a very substantial angle as opposed to directly across like these bridges do. 1, 2, 3, 4 pillars. The original one that the battle took place on had 8 pillars, and it took place just up around that bend. So we're talking 180 yards in that direction, and this is the old bridge, the very old bridge. I do have the exact coordinates for where the old bridge originally stood, and I'll put a link up on here in the event that you may be interested. I'm puffing and panting because that was a hell of a walk up here to the William Wallace monument. I don't have time to catch my breath because I left Mum in the car. This would have broken her. What a view. Some snow-capped mountains on the other side, and this is looking down at the town of Stirling. That's Stirling Castle over there, and down the bottom, may be hard to pick up because I'm using a mobile phone, but there's the old Stirling Bridges we visited earlier this morning. This is heading down the hill from the monument, and this is, you can imagine what it would have looked like if you've ever watched Game of Thrones or any reenactment of a medieval battle. This certainly is, when they made the movie Braveheart, certainly is the landscape that they managed to replicate so well. Good morning, King Robert de Bruce, up at Stirling Castle, keeping an eye over the town of Stirling. The first record of Stirling Castle was 1110, when a little church was built up here under King Alexander. It became a royal residence after his successor, King David. And it's built on a 350 million year old formation of quartz dolerite, and as a result it has this, it's like a crag and tail from glacial movements. I guess that's why so many of the mountains tend to tail down. The view from up here is absolutely amazing. There's got some snow-capped mountains in the background that you can't pick up on. And there's the William Wallace monument that I went to this morning. That's a couple of kilometres away, and that just goes to show exactly how big it is. It took me about 10 minutes to walk up the hill to that. I wonder what happened on this day in history.
On this day, December 10, 1948, the UN General Assembly adopts the Declaration of Human Rights.
Can I just mention that I want to give her credit. The great Eleanor Roosevelt sat on the committee
Yes.
for the drafting of the Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay. Also on this day, in 2007, Argentina swore in their first female elected president, Christine Fernandez.